everyone, and welcome to Cagebusters Academy. I'm Shuri. Cagebusters Academy is my little place of the internet that originally actually started as Creative Mermaids and it gradually morphed into Cagebusters. Because if you're like, what? Creative Mermaids, Cagebusters? What are you talking about, Shuri? I'm here to help you figure that out. That's what this is. It's a little bit of a welcome video and a hello and an explanation of what I do and what I want to do and how I want to help you, but also to change the world. And I'm going to say that. That's, in fact, if I wasn't treating this as a live video, I would totally go back and take that out because this is one of my freedom thieves, which is a how dare you talk about changing the world. But I really believe that if we change ourselves, we change the world, that we can really go deep and make a ripple effect that just goes out across the planet. And that's my big dream, and I'm gonna say it, it's there. As much as I feel dorky saying I have a big dream and everything else, this is what cage busting is about. It's about going into that messy middle. It's about being dorky. It's about embracing that inner geek. It's about using yoga and journaling and books to kind of get past that inner geek and out there and really just embracing everything that life has for you, really looking at how to live life outside the cage. And basically our premise is, what would life look like if we all stopped living life from the inside out, which outside in. See, I would erase that normally, but I'm gonna leave it. We're pretending it's live. So basically, if you're wondering what that means, it's like, what kind of world will we live in if we all stepped outside of our shiny bars for who we are? So basically, Cagebusters is talking about the golden cage of life. And what the golden cage of life is the image we project to the entire world. And it goes both ways. On the one hand, we have these shiny bars that we like to show everyone. We like to talk about how perfect life is, or at the very least, we don't like to show up in our mess. We like to kind of pretend it's all good. This is us shining our bars. It's all good. It's all good. Look at Instagram. Look at social media. You know, so much of us are talking about the good parts version of our lives. We don't like sharing the not so good part. And sometimes that's really good. I mean, there's times when you don't want to be sharing your messy middle. I always think that, you know, it needs to be a clean energy to it. If you're in a point where you're like, this really hurts and talking about it brings me more shame, then you shouldn't be talking about it either. You should be talking about it, but probably not publicly. You know, you should be going to your friends or a therapist and working that out first. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Cage busting does not ask you to do that. What cage busting does ask you to do is to admit that there was a time in your life when you went through this, and maybe then to share your story to help other women to grow themselves. You know, it's not about shaming other people. It's actually about fighting this whole version of perfectionism and shame that's built around not having a perfect life. And I'm not sure how and when we started thinking that we had to have these perfect lives. I don't know if it was social media, if we were kind of like it before, because I mean, the 80s were all about, you know, shininess, you know, and saying that things are better than you could and spending money you didn't have to impress people you don't like. Like, this has been going on much longer than social media. But I do think that social media has really brought it out even more. And so cage busting really helps us to look at that, you know, that we want to say, you know what, I'm more important for building my life inside out. So it doesn't matter how I feel, you know, it doesn't matter what it looks like. What matters is how I feel. I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't matter how you feel? Feelings are very important. And I think this is something that we've never really been taught. We've been taught since we were small children that, and I see it now as a mother. I didn't really see it before, but now that I've become a mother, I see how we teach small children to not listen to who they are on the inside, to not live life for who they want to be, but rather how to get our attention. And I mean, we do this with the best of intentions, of course. I mean, we don't want to raise our children not to be themselves, but sometimes it's a case of we have an idea of what we think is best for them. We kind of push that on them, and then they learn to respond to that. And then we wonder why in our 30s we have no idea who or what we want to be, or why this dream we've chased our entire lives isn't bringing us happiness, because if we really look at it, it was never a dream. It was a dream for a parent or a loved one or someone else, or a teacher, and we got this positive feedback all the time, and this positive feedback just helps us build this golden cage that keeps us trapped in what we think is a security, but in fact is actually unable to move. And so, I mean, I started realizing this myself when I became a mother, because beforehand, I wouldn't say I was completely outside a golden cage, but I was actually quite able to slip in and out. You know, I traveled for a long time. I quit one master's, and after my first master's, I decided never to go on and do a PhD. I was like, nope, that's enough. Like, I don't care what the shiny outside looks like. The inside does not feel good. And I don't care if people look at you and you're like, oh, why'd you ever give up your PhD? Because getting a PhD would have made me miserable. Getting a master's made me miserable. So why would I sign myself up for 5 more years of misery? And then people tell you, and this is a freedom thief then that we do talk about later on. I promise later on this week I'll bring up freedom thieves, but freedom thieves are like the jailers in your mind. And, you know, Rumi has a great quote where he says, you know, why do you stay in your cage when the door is wide open? Why do you stay in your prison, when the door is wide open? And that's exactly why, because the freedom thieves are telling you to stay there, that you have to stay there, that this is where the good part of your life is. Anyway, I started realizing that I myself had fallen into this, that despite years of bucking tradition, once I became a mother, I wanted the security, I wanted the safety. I was very, very scared suddenly of what it would mean for my babies if I didn't do everything by the book. And I started looking at everyone else, and instead of defining what motherhood was for me and what made me happy and how I could be the best mom for my kids, I started looking at, okay, I need a definition of what a best mom is, and this is one time where bibliotherapy did not help. I was just reading the wrong books, because I really do believe that books will help you change your life. In both reading them, you can have these really great transformations with reading books, because your brain gets to have all the experiences without any of the actual consequences of doing it in your own life. But also, I feel that sometimes you read the wrong books, and in this case, it was definitely reading the wrong books. I think if I read books about moms who had bucked the tradition and ended up happy, I would have been much better. But instead, I was just consuming books left, right, and center. How to be a good mom, how to be a good mom, how to be a good mom, how to be the best mom. And instead of actually looking at how was I going to be the best mom for me, I was transforming into mother. I wasn't being Sherry as a mom, I was being a mother. And although I learned a lot of great lessons from that, and this is where Wounds to Wisdom definitely comes in. Sorry about all these flashing, but I'm on a boat and it's pretty stormy today, which is why I can't go live. It's actually interfering with the internet like crazy here, so it's just doing a regular video instead. But treating it like a live, which is why I'm not deleting any of this stuff. But yes, now I've gone off topic, and normally I would stop this now, but I'm not going to do it. But yes, anyway, motherhood, and I realized that sometimes the freer you are, the more trapped you become afterwards. And I really let my mind interfere with who I was, and it took a long time for me to realize that this was what I was doing. And in fact, like in most cases, it took tragedy. I came this close to breaking up with my partner, the father of my children, and partner of 15 years. I was looking for apartments, and then my brother died, and it was my younger brother. He was only 37 when he died. And all of a sudden, my whole world that I knew was broken apart. I was no longer looking to be in this partnership that I'd been in for 15 years. I was looking at being a single mom, and all of a sudden I wasn't part of Sherry, Sean, and Michael, because we were all just a year apart. So it was like, I thought for a long time that our name was Sherry, Sean, and Michael. You know what I mean? Like, seriously. And so when I look at that, when I think about that, I think, yeah, unfortunately, sometimes tragedy is what breaks us out of a cage, because all of a sudden you realize that that door was always open and everything's been stripped down away from you really fast. And this is where stories help as well, which is probably where I'm going full circle now, in that with the full circle is with stories can help you not just having the brain highlighted, but even looking at the heroine's journey or the hero's journey, depending on if you're looking for an outside quest or an inside quest. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female, the hero's journey really is just more of a outside quest. You're going off into an adventure, and the heroine's journey really is more of an inside quest. The change is going on in the inside much more than the outside. And so it really helps you, though, when you realize that you look at these overall story structures and you realize, that's what happened to me. I was ignoring all the signs. I was in the illusion of success. I was pretending I was in the perfect world. I was telling myself, at least I have happy children. At least I have beautiful children. At least I have healthy children. At least I have an apartment. At least I'm in a partnership. And then all of a sudden, universe stepped in and poof, bitch slapped me and said, no more, at least. Stop using gratitude to cap yourself and start using it to catapult yourself instead. And that is exactly what happened. And again, the quest was long, but from it started with Creative Mermaids, which was really focusing on motherhood and looking at creativity and how to kind of break out of that, and eventually actually went much bigger and more focused and became Cage Busters Academy, which is looking at how to use bibliotherapy, yoga, and journaling, which were the 3 tools that I found to be amazing in accessing who I was and helping to get myself back out of the messy middle, but also integrated and healed and into a full, I hate to say full person, because I was always a full person, but into a full power of who I was. That's the better word. That I was stepped into my power. And so that's why I decided to do the Cage Busting Academy, because I was like, you know what? This really has helped me transform from the person I was through the messy middle into the person I am now, but really integrating the healing, integrating the lessons, and I think making me a way more powerful and happy person than I was beforehand. Because sometimes I think, motherhood really at first just knocked the knees out underneath me, and it was really some tough lessons in there. And then also dealing with death, and both the death of a relationship and the death of my brother, and you're looking at these things going, this was so tough. And at the same time, you realize before, though, as happy as I was very innocent. And that innocent person wasn't able to deal with tragedy the same way. And this is now that I've gone through this transformation, I've gone through the messy middle. I'm not saying it's not going to happen again, because I do believe it's cycles. But the difference is that I like to think that your cycles are going up as opposed to down. But let's face it, it's probably like language learning. It's like this. It's never like this. It's more like you're going up and down and up and down. But the general overall trend is up. And I like to think that that's part of life, that we're supposed to actually have the good and the bad and to integrate that, and that we don't have to be sharing our pain when we're in the middle of it, but we do need to share our lessons afterwards, so that the people who are going through it at the moment don't feel like they're so alone. And I think it sometimes can be dangerous when people who are in pain just share each other's pain, but to look at that person who's up and who's gone through it and can look back and share either through the message of stories or through the message of just I hear you, I've been there, it's okay. These transformations happen, and this is where cage busters are. It's about going from being that person who's just trapped inside a cage, but going with at least I have, or on the hamster wheel of success, trying to go with, well, okay, this success didn't work, but maybe this one will, and maybe this one will, or maybe if I got the promotion, or if I got the car, or if I got the holidays, or instead of just jumping off that and sitting back and going, okay, what do I need? Not what I think the rest of the world will tell me I'm a good person for, or not the check boxes, but really, what does me, who I am in my heart, what do I need? And that's what Cage Busters Academy is about. That was long, longer than I expected. I'm gonna leave it as it is. Catch you soon.